Grey Nomad has its Australian debut by Sandy Miller. Following the sellout season of The Importance of Being Earnest, Warrandyte Theatre Company is looking to keep the laughter coming with the Australian premiere of Grey Nomad by award-winning local playwright Dan Lee. Grey Nomad follows two retired couples travelling around Australia. Dan explains that one couple is trying to avoid the second couple.
Or to be more specific, the husband Jim doesn't like the look of this other pair because they're nudists for a start and they're a bit alternative lifestyle. He's very worried about being stuck with people that he doesn't feel comfortable with, so it's about the relationship that develops between these two couples and the stuff they go through.
Regular theatregoers will be delighted to see the return of Lisa Upson as Val and Tony Clayton, Jim, to the Warrandyte stage, with both performing together in WTC's 2022 production of Calendar Girls, and separately in Things I Know to Be True and View from a Bridge. Local theatre lovers may also have caught Tony in the recent Eltham Little Theatre production of The Diary of Anne Frank. New faces to Warrandyte, but no strangers to the stage, Kerry Parkinson, Helen, and Ian Tweedale, Gary, complete the four-hander cast. Ian has directed Veer for WTC, but despite an impressive bio, this is his first time treading the boards in the Warrandyte Mechanics Institute Hall. Kerry has been involved with many productions with companies such as Sherbrooke, 1812 and Peridot, and she says she is looking forward to what promises to be a heartwarming experience. Dan told The Diary he wrote Grey Nomad while living in Broome, Western Australia.
I looked at the Grey Nomads that were coming through Broome. People my parents' age. My parents are in their late 70s now, and most of those people have had conversations about selling up and travelling. I ingratiated myself into some of the Grey Nomad circles in the caravan parks in Broome. Just sort of wandered in and did a bit of research, eavesdropping, looking inside the caravans. They're delighted if you're interested. We had a reading at Broome Library with some local actors, and I went on ABC Radio and did a call out to all the Grey Nomads who were going to be around. We filled the library up with these amazing, free-ranging baby boomers in knee-high socks, sandals, and wacky comedic t-shirts and terry toweling bucket hats, and they loved it. Even the stuff that's critical of them, they loved. They were beside themselves. They were so delighted that it was about them. I basically came up with the story and the characters, and then it's a matter of observational comedy. So you're just putting everything in there that people will recognise about the demographic, that age group, and that pursuit of travelling around and around and around in a big loop. The main couple in the play are the more traditional married couple, and they represent something that I saw a lot, which is a kind of reluctant wife following a very loud guy in a wacky t-shirt who thinks he's funny. I noticed a lot of those women who spent years raising children, and suddenly, just at the age when things are getting easier and they can have grandchildren and all care and no responsibility and enjoy things, the husband retires and drags them around the country. And they looked bewildered. They looked a bit like they totally didn't know what to do with themselves.
Dan said the lead character, Helen, plays the reluctant wife, unsure of her situation or even why she isn't enjoying the newfound freedom. But her husband, Jim, is delighted and is trying to make her love it as much as he does. But the more he tries, the harder it is for Helen to like it. But then she meets Val, the nudist. Val is vivacious and fun-loving, and through this contrast, Helen begins to find a purpose. Dan has written several plays to great acclaim. His first script, Bottomless, was awarded the prestigious R.E. Ross Trust Playwright Script Development Award in 2014. He said Bottomless was about alcoholism.
It's about my experience with that.
He said it was set in the Sober Up Centre in Broome and the prison.
I went to Broome to get sober, believe it or not. Broome is kind of like get sober or you die. There's a line in Bottomless which says, people come to the edge of the country and they realise they've brought themselves with them, and there's no outrunning that. You know? You run until you come to the Land's End. I ended up getting that produced at 45 downstairs in Melbourne.
That led Dan to developing the script for Grey Nomad.
I wrote Grey Nomad because after winning the Ross, Melbourne Theatre Company were romancing me for a while. They kind of get up-and-coming playwrights and they invite you to all the things, and they give you workshops with famous playwrights and things like that, and then they hope you'll write a play that's acceptable to their subscribership. And it's difficult because you have to put on a kind of classics and things like that because 80% of the audience are of that demographic. I wrote Grey Nomad because they didn't end up taking Bottomless, because it was a bit dark, although all the plays I've written have been comedy. The darker the subject, the more comedy in a way, because you've got great license with dark subject matter to be funny. I wrote Grey Nomad because I thought this would appeal to their subscriber base, because they are of the same generation as the Grey Nomads. But they passed on it.
Despite the thoroughly Australian story, Grey Nomad's stage debut was in Los Angeles.
I was there with Missy, touring. I was married to Missy Higgins for 10 years and we were touring in the States when our child was young. We were staying in LA for 6 months or so and she was writing, recording, and I just offered the Australian Theatre Company some plays and they really liked this, so they put it on. And it was weird because it was set in Broome, but here we were at the Skylight Theatre in Los Feliz, where you could see the Hollywood sign outside the front of the theatre. That's the first thing I ever had on, which was amazing and weird, and now the Australian premiere is in my new hometown of Warrandyte.
Despite the nudist characters, Dan says the nudity will be implied.
When we put it on in LA, we tried having a bit of full frontal nude yoga. There's a nude yoga scene, and it was so shocking to the audience that we basically lost the next dozen lines because they were trying to compose themselves. It was way too much. Not that there was anything wrong with it, it was just too much for an audience to deal with, just such full-on nudity. So this time there won't be actual nudity. I don't want people not to come because they think it's going to be rude. So if you're thinking of not coming because of the nudity, there is no nudity, but there is certainly a lot of double entendre.
Grey Nomad is certainly full of heart and laughs and is a wonderful representation of Australian retirees' passion for travel. Grey Nomad will open at the Warrandyte Mechanics Institute Hall on August 22, with Friday and Saturday evening performances and Sunday matinees until September 6. Bookings can be made at trybooking.com/DBQYZ.